Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 507 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. I'm Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and we have the full crew here this week, kicking things off with the owner of MTG Goldfish, Richard. How are you this fine Monday, Richard?
Good morning, Seth. Christmas has come again, apparently, Seth. We got some juicy news courtesy of someone on this podcast this weekend. And I'm super excited to talk about official art.
official art.
Yeah, Seth, right?
We might have gotten a sneak peek at some X-Men thing that they're doing in the future that we're going to talk about. I'm sure Krim will fill us in about the X-Men when we get to it. Good morning, Krim. Good morning, Krim. How are you? You've had a busy weekend, I think. How was your weekend?
Well, as you figured, it was a little wild. I got to be a part of the Secret Lair panel. And we had a look at the Marvel cards, and I had a panel at New York Comic Con. And that's a lifelong dream. And I've never been to New York Comic Con, so it was cool to be in the other coast and for a thing that I've always dreamt of as a little kid, to just be at New York Comic Con with Marvel, all that stuff, and just out there talking about magic, comic books, all of it.
It sounded like it was really fun, and the spoilers we got to see are pretty exciting, but we're getting ahead of ourselves here. That's one of our big topics today. We have official Marvel cards with some new Secret Lair drops that are going on sale in just a couple of weeks, way before the Marvel set proper. So we're going to talk about those, and we have a bunch of other topics today. There's card grading coming to GameStop of all places, no Pioneer RCQs in the next year, and then of course a little bit of modern news, some Commander panel news. So we're going to be jumping around. Before we get into that, though, a reminder that today's show is brought to you by Card Conduit, and Card Conduit's the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. If you ever get tired of the hassles of buy listing, you can skip them with Card Conduit. You can use their curated service where you send in as many cards as you want with a buy list value of $1 or more and pay just a 5% service fee. And if you want to do a bit of work, you can use the sorted service where you list and sort your cards in advance and pay just a 2% fee. Either way, you're going to get a detailed report with the results and a fast payment once your order is processed. And you can even get another 10% off by heading over to cardconduit.com/MTGGoldfish. Card Conduit, they're the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. So thank you to Card Conduit for supporting the show. And let's talk some Magic, and let's start with what I think is the big news. The Marvel Secret Lair drops got announced over the weekend. Richard, why don't you kind of guide us through these lair drops and what we found out about these Marvel cards?
Okay, so a couple of weeks ago, a post showed up on Facebook Marketplace of some guy selling Secret Lairs. So it turns out some of the cards were revealed, right? And those cards were, in the gist of it, correct. So we're going to go over the Secret Lairs. There's 5 drops here, themed around each hero or Avenger or I don't know what these... character of
X-Men
characters.
And X-Men. They're all X-Men to me.
November 4th is the day you want to talk about, right? November 4th is when the Secret Lairs will go live for purchase, and they're all priced the same thing. So the non-foil bundles will be $40 and the rainbow foils will be $50. So each bundle has the main characters. So for example, the Black Panther bundle, and then additional cards that are either reprints with the art or renamed cards with arts. So we're going to go through them all. And then also we're going to kick things off with a new card that we haven't seen, which is Storm. Okay, so Storm Force of Nature is a Teamer commander, 1 green, blue, red, 3/4, legendary creature, mutant hero, flying vigilance, Ceaseless Tempest. When Storm deals combat damage to a player, the next instant or sorcery you cast this turn has Storm. Storm stacks, by the way. So if you cast a Storm spell, it has like Storm keyword twice. You might see this on Arena where it says like Storm and then Storm again. So that's Storm, Force of Nature. And then along with the card itself, Lightning Bolt, Storm's Will, which is Jessica's will, Ice Storm. I didn't even know Mono Green had land destruction, but apparently that's an old card from like the original Alpha Beta. And then Aurora Borealis, which is Manamorphose. That's a lot of value. Storm is so broken that I'm upset. And the art, the art is like, Oh my god. Any complaints I had about art last last podcast, removed with Storm right here. This is
Really?
what I
Okay.
expect to see. This is what I like the I think it's the pose. If I think about it, it's the pose. But like this card, I need immediately, but I know I'm gonna get shamed out of every play group immediately because it's just Yidris 2.0. It's insanely broken. I don't know how you build this in a fair way. This thing attacks, disgusting things will happen. So this is a must-kill commander. I'm kind of upset. It's too good.
Yeah.
I wish it was worse so I could play it without feeling guilty.
Yeah, the power level of this card is off the charts, right? We've seen, I think, one card in the past, kind of recent past, in Crackling Spellslinger, that is like a 5-drop that when it enters, your next spell gets Storm. The thing is, that costs 5 mana. This is essentially free, right? Like, once it's on the battlefield, you attack with this, you have all your mana up, you can give some ridiculous stuff, Storm. I expect this not only to be a super powerful commander, but this is going to be very popular, right? Like, who doesn't love just like copying their favorite spell a million times? So I think this card's like going to be the most popular commander out of this release, probably, just as far as like a Magic player, like what it does on the battlefield in the game of Magic. And I think it might actually be like borderline too strong. But what do you think about this one, Grim?
I think everybody's talking about brewing like extra turns, all this other stuff. And even land destruction, right? Like these are kind of the things that people are kind of beelining to. But what people aren't talking about is mill. So now I can brain freeze you, baby boy, and that'll have
Brain freeze
storm.
already has
Storm. So now, secretly, Storm is about to happen. Is going to be one of my favorite mill commanders. And I mean, we just had the Mind Skinner, and don't worry, the Mind Skinner goes in the deck. Just don't play them at the same time. However, like the main thing is that this whole drop has some of the sweetest art of Storm, and you see her like costume changes throughout the years, and how Storm has had some of the best comic book costumes, and they got all of them, right? They got all the different eras. They got like, the recent run. They've got Queen of Wakanda. They've got, like X-Men 97. They're going through the years of costumes, and they are this is a busted card, right? I think this is going to be a very powerful card, and I cannot wait to like Genesis Ultimatum like 50 times. This, you can think extra turns, you can think all of that, but I'm thinking about what are the funny spells that are nonsensical that I can give Storm. Like, yes, we know extra turns are good. Yes, maybe extra combats are solid, but what else can we do? And now, naturally, the mind went to Tasha's hideous laughter, right? Right? Come on, Seth.
I feel
Golo
it's
thing. You're like, I'm
yeah.
gonna build Golo scouts, but here, you guys thinking way too. People are like, I'm gonna play multiple, extra turn spells. You play like literally, you have Storm, you hit once, you play literally one spell, okay, like a ponder. Okay, and then you Green Sun Zenith for 5 times 2, get a 2-card combo, win the game. like that's how easy it is, right? Now, replace that sweaty line with literally anything else, you still win. So like any 8-drop spell you play that gets doubled, you probably win the game on the spot, right? Any 4-mana spell that gets tripled, you probably won the game on the spot, right? So this is like I built it fun, I built it janky, but oops, I won the game by accident, right?
Yeah.
Like so this is the Blanca problem. Too slow to be CDH probably, but like enough to pub stomp everyone into the ground. And I'm scared about that. But I will harp on Crim's point about the different eras of Storm. This gives me so much faith for Final Fantasy because I'm very worried that, it's all going to be Final Fantasy 7 and we're going to see only Final Fantasy 7. You could have made the argument for Storm here that it's all X-Men 97. Like that's the new X-Men thing. That's what they want to sell. But, they got the different eras. So I have faith that Final Fantasy will be, be not just Final Fantasy 7, but across all timelines. So I really like that part. So I'm crossing my fingers.
What do you think about putting Ice Storm in there? Because if I look at this Secret Lair drop, and I think this is true of all of these Secret Lair drops, that it's essentially a commander, and then cards that you would play theoretically in a commander deck led by that commander. I think these are almost like mini starter commander deck Secret Lair drops. Like you get your commander, then put these cards in it, and then put the rest of the cards in, you got a deck. Ice Storm, though, is weird because it's just a Stone Rain. Is that the kind of card that we want to encourage people to play in their Storm Commander deck? Like, do we want people to be trying to, like, storm off and blow up all their opponent's lands? Value-wise, it's insanely expensive. The cheapest version's, like, over $50. But if you're thinking of it that way, the price is going to come down a ton because it has not ever been reprinted since Unlimited, I believe, in, like, 1994. So it's mostly a super low supply card. But what do you think about putting land destruction in this, like, Commander starter kit here?
Good.
We're
That's
teaching
exactly
new players
what we should be doing. Yeah, get those
We're
good
teaching new
building
players
blocks.
how to build your own Armageddon with Storm.
Get those
I will
good building
say
blocks.
it is the best card in the drop though because it has not just one X-Man or X-Woman, but multiples.
In the background there.
Jean Grey, Bishop,
Yeah,
Iceman who's camouflaged in the ice, Archangel, Forge even? Like what? Okay. So that's actually our sneak peek at the rest of the X-Men here because I don't think any of the Wolverine cards have any other X-Men in them.
they do.
So
They have
do?
capacity.
hold on, let me take a look.
They have X-23,
oh,
Laura
X-23.
Kinney,
You see
who eventually becomes the next Wolverine.
Whoa, spoilers.
No, come on, that's been out for like 10 years. Okay, that's been
Okay,
out for
wait, no. So when we talk about okay, now this is a serious question, Krim. We're gonna have to when we talk about spoilers, what do we use? Do we use MCU as the as the pace that everyone has seen?
No.
Do we just say whatever? It's been 30 years in the comics. Like, are we allowed to spoil? Like, what can we say? What is kosher in an
Okay.
MCU Magic the Gathering setting? You know?
This is a Marvel Comics driven kind of like idea, right? It's all coming from that. So I feel like we gotta go by the comics. By that metric, Laura Kinney has been at like Wolverine for a minute now. She joined the Avengers. She's had a full life, all right?
Oh, damn it. All I saw was she was in Logan. And then she appeared in Deadpool and Wolverine, Krim.
I do not know anything either of you are saying. It's all spoilers to me, yes.
Uh,
Spoiler, if you've had 45 years to like read it.
I don't know.
no.
Okay. What if when Lord of the Rings set came out, were we okay, even though Lord of the Rings is literally like 80 years old or something, the books, and then the movies have been 25 years old? Would it be kosher to just like start swinging around, you know, the ending? No,
It's
right?
gotta
You
be, right?
No, yeah. Like, I think
No.
there's a grace period, right? Like, yeah, you're warranted, like, let's say 5 years. Okay, 5 years. And in the 5 years since release, if you haven't seen it, read it, you know, like
Then you just
Were
don't
you
care,
ever-
right?
it
There's
was
got to
in
be
a- in
some
a like, were
point
you
where you just
ever-
weren't ever gonna do it. Yeah, like
It's like you go to the movie theater and they remake this like 80-year-old story and you run in and you yell spoilers. You're like, what? It's been 80 years, guys. Right? Like, no, it's like no one watched the original, right? Like, you know. All right. Well, I mean, no spoilers coming from me and Seth here. So
No,
Krim just
not
needs
at all.
Krim needs to be careful here. Let's go over the other
it's
drops.
not even a spoiler. It's in the card art. She's literally Wolverine's costume.
Yeah, and I'm sure people are confused. It's like playing One Piece, you know. You're like, what is this? Oh no, I've ruined the story for me. I haven't caught up on 30 years of anime.
Oh God, that happens to Yamato.
Who is Yamato? Okay.
Oh yeah.
Secret Lair, Black Panther. So we got the Wakandan King. Okay. Here are his cards. Secure the Wastes. Bast Blessing, which is Primal Vigor, Heroic Intervention, Wakandan Skyscraper, which is Karn's Bastion, and then you get the warrior tokens from the Wakanda background.
Can
So-
we
Very solid reprints.
very solid reprint.
No,
very
wait, is it
power-
Primal Vigor worth a bunch? How much is Primal Vigor worth?
No, let's see. They reprinted that in Wilds of Eldraine, so it's like $5 or something. It's like
Oh, never
pretty
mind
cheap
then.
now.
So Heroic Intervention.
Wait.
Heroic Intervention is the reprint
It was an
value.
enchanting tale. It was an enchanting tale. So yeah, $7 currently.
Even if these were all the worst reprints, the copies of these cards are going to be the most expensive ones. These
I
are
think
the
so.
most collectible ones. Like, yes, sure, Primal Vigor may be $7, but this version of Primal Vigor will not be $7.
Sure.
So technically, all
but-
of these are good value. The MTG.
No.
Like,
But you got to compare them to the other drops. Like we have 5 drops.
Yeah,
Out
the
of
other
the 5
drops get
drops that we
cracked.
got, this is the
Sure.
least valuable of the 5
Okay.
drops. So if you're just purely going MTG Finance, like and compare these 5, this is like on the lowest end of value.
Crip, give me a Marvel power rating of Black Panther, because to me, Black Panther seems to be like the lowest popularity here. Maybe like between Storm and Black Panther. Is that true? Like, why did Black Panther get scuffed on the reprint value here?
I mean, I don't think it got scuffed at all. It got designed to where the Black Panther is very powerful, and it cares about what? Tokens, making creatures, and proliferation, right? And it plays in such an interesting way. So I don't know. I mean, Heroic Intervention's really good. The naming is perfect. I don't see where it's bad. This all looks really good.
It's not bad, but let me tell you better, okay? So we got Captain America, Wizards of the Coast, an American company, Hasbro, an American company, right? Krim, part of this, Jess Guy, what's not there to love, right? So we got Captain America's Aid, which is Sigarda's Aid. Flawless maneuver. Flawless maneuvers here. In the trenches. I didn't know this card existed. Apparently it's standard.
Yeah, it's a $2 card.
And then Shield of War and Peace, which is Sword of War and Peace, with the best art ever. Just the shield flying at your face.
So I have to say, shields and swords are not the same thing. That was my one little mini rant about this. How the flavor, is the flavor on that not weird or no? Like, I'm not a Marvel person.
He represents War and Peace. I don't know. Some of Captain America lore.
Okay, fair enough.
Flavor-wise, I get it. A sword is not a shield, but that's why they renamed it War and Peace. What else could you have?
The War and Peace
in Magic?
is the way.
They tested Shield of Cauldron, but only Tomer liked it, and everyone else was like, "What is this garbage card in my lair?" So we had to go with the Shield of War and Peace.
Also, there'd be really bad if they just sold you Shield of Cauldron and that's it. Neither of the other Cauldron pieces got anything, which also makes 0 sense with Cap, right? So Shield of War and Peace makes sense. In the Trenches is a $2 card. Sigarda's 8 is like a $7 card, right? But Heroic Intervention.
Flawless maneuver.
How much is Flawless Maneuver now? I don't even know.
They're all Flawless and Sword are both around $10. Sigarda's 8's like $8 or $7, and in the Trenches basically bulk. So you get 3 like $8 to $10 cards, plus Captain America itself, which Captain America is a commander that's also getting a lot of hype. I don't know if it's quite storm busted, but it seems really fun to build around. So I think it'll be popular based on the commander, essentially.
I mean, is that now not the same with like Primal Vigor, which is about an $8 card, right? Like Cap, and then Heroic Intervention's about $10 to $12.
Yeah.
And
we went to the
Black
2 least
Panther
valuable ones in a row to start this off. Wait until we get to the next one.
Wait. I'll blow your socks off with what I think whoever made these sets thinks is like the best character. Iron Man, Titan of Innovation. So his lair has Galvanic Blast. It has Commander's Plate. It has Soul Ring.
Yeah.
Soul Ring. I don't know why he got the Soul Ring, but you play that in every deck in Commander, right? And then you got Inventor's Fair, and then you have the most baller treasure token I've ever seen, which is
the Iron Man mask in Stark Industry.
The Soul Ring just elevates everything to the next level, because although Soul Ring is not worth much, it's played everywhere.
It is in every deck.
Play it literally everywhere. And the one card I want from all of these the most is Commander's Plate. I want to strap Rogak up. He's the next Iron Man.
Yeah.
Right?
Iron
Man suit.
If you think about everything that's going on in these sets, it's going to be so funny for that exact reason. I cannot wait to have, like, I don't know, Ragavan in a Mark 42 suit or something like that, right? Like, that's hilarious.
Super Monkey.
But
all right, Seth, what's the value breakdown of Iron Man here?
I don't have any connection to Marvel, and this is the first drop that I would buy just based on value, because Commander Plate's almost $40 on its own, and that's like the price of the cheapest version of the drop. And then Inventor's Fair is like $13. Soul Ring is kind of like one of the Crim things. There's a ton of them, and they're cheap, but this might be one of the more in-demand versions just because people like Marvel. But it's really Commander's Plate is the big one at almost $40.
All
I mean,
right.
yeah, sweet.
We talked about Storm, but let's talk about Storm financially. So Lightning Bolt, Storm's Will, which is Jessica's Will, Ice Storm, and then Metamorphose,
Wolverine.
Borealis. So Ice Storm, that's a trap, right? It's worth a
Yeah.
lot because it's super old and it's never been reprinted, like literally ever. I think it's the longest gap in reprint time of any card. But Jessica's Will with Storm. The mechanic, literally, with your commander. Pretty good.
Yeah. Jessica's Will still like $20. And then Ice Storm, I don't know even how to like really grade that financially.
What is the
'cause like
current
you
value
said,
of Ice Storm, Seth?
Current value, the cheapest version, $53 for unlimited. But I expect it'll be like $5 once all of these are actually in the wild. Or it's going to come down a lot in one way or another.
I mean, and then the one character that didn't need a boost in sales is probably Wolverine. And Wolverine has Berserk, Rite of Passage, Rhythm of Wild, and Adamantium Bonding Tank, which is the Ozolith. Seth, hit me with the value of these.
So I didn't even realize this till I started researching these drops. Did you know that the Ozolith is almost $40 now? The Ozolith is insanely expensive. So that's the big winner here, $40 Ozolith. And then Berserk has been reprinted a few times in like Conspiracy and From the Vault Exiled, but that's still like $20. So this one seems like a snap buy just for like value, essentially. Like you're spending $40 to get a $40 Ozolith, and you get a cool Wolverine commander and a $20 Berserk and a couple of other cards.
All right.
I gotta. Oh, go ahead.
What do we do with this? What do we do with this information, Seth?
That's my
this
question.
is a limited drop, which means they sell this, and then there's an arcane signet. By the way, we forgot Earth's mightiest emblem, the Avengers Tower, arcane signet. But what do we? You get this when you spend $200 on super drop products. What do we do with this? It's limited. They haven't stated whether these are exclusive cards, so we don't know if they're in a set or not. Or do we? I don't know, right? And then also, limited can mean anything. Limited to 20 million copies. Limited to 5 copies, right? So it's unknown. Everyone seems to be like, guys, slam dunk buy everything. MTG finance this, buy 10 of everything. Because each of them have the quote unquote value without even talking about the unique commander card, right? Like, the Ozolith alone is worth 40. But obviously, prices will go down when there's all these Ozoliths coming in. But how limited do you think it is? And do you think people should be foaming out of this? What is the play here, Seth?
So obviously, if you're Krim and you love Marvel, you probably want it just because it's Marvel. You know what I'm saying? If you're a big Marvel fan, none of this probably matters to you. And you should just buy it because it's Marvel and you like it because it's Marvel and you play the new commanders. I think from a Magic perspective, I'm in this is probably a snap buy camp. When you add together how good these reprints are with how expensive exclusive lair drop commanders are. We were just talking about this on a Goldfish cast, which I don't know if it's live yet or not, but like the 14th Doctor was released in a secret lair drop. It's like $50. Laura Croft was in a secret lair drop. It's like $30. A couple of the D&D cards are like $30 or $40. So when you consider how expensive they are, yes, I guess there's some chance that limited this time doesn't actually mean limited, but I think it probably means limited. Like, we've seen limited secret lair drops in the past, and they sell out really quickly a lot of the times. My expectation is this sells out within hours or minutes or at least a day, and that it's a really good buy financially. That's where I'm at with it. To the point where I might just buy all of them just to sit on a shelf somewhere, because I think long term they're probably going to be worth it to have around. The only risk is if these are commanders that show up in the main set, it's almost a little scummy to the point where you're going to spend like $50 to get them, and then they're going to end up $2 or something once the Lord of the Rings style huge supply main set reprint happens. So if that is what's happening, that would make it a lot worse value financially. But apart from that, what's the reason not to buy it? Do you guys even see is there an argument against buying these?
You are
It's
so
$250, Seth.
against Marvel because you're a huge DC fan. That's why. You're a DC fan. You've been bitter over the years because they've had nothing but bad movies, except for animated movies. Those are pretty good. But yeah, like that's it. That's the only reason. I mean, even if you hate Marvel, just like, or you don't even care about Marvel. I agree, right? Like, why would what?
No, I
would you
just
buy?
don't
Like,
care. I
Seth
don't
is
hate it. I
getting
just don't even care. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and as someone who loves Marvel, that is the only thing that has me concerned. How many Marvel fans, foaming at the mouth, are going to be in line and getting this, right? And that means you have to now beat the Marvel fans. And what I mean by that is, I have tried to buy stuff while other Marvel fans are in line, and it gets hardcore. It gets hardcore out there.
Well, and stuff
So-
sells out even when it's not Marvel with secret lair drops.
Yeah.
Like, we've run into this with just like normal lair drops selling out very, very quickly, or people
Correct.
waiting in line for 45 minutes and then it being sold out. So like, and this has Marvel on top of it. So imagine it's going to be even more intense than usual, right?
Yeah. And I'm just going in. I'm getting one of everything.
Let's think logically for a second, right? Wizards wants to sell as many of these as possible to make money, right? It doesn't really. People are like, "Oh, it's a scam by corporate wizards to like sell 5 and have it sold out." Like, no, actually, they just lost out in a ton of sales. So your question is, how accurate can Wizards predict how much demand there is for this product? I think Wizards will do a good job. So I don't think you need to like FOMO. Like, everyone's just. You're not describing logically. You're all describing like FOMO things, right? Like, I gotta buy this because it's gonna sell out instantly. And there's all these Marvel fans. I look at this list and I'm like, each drop has like one card I want. I'm gonna buy singles. I'm actually not gonna buy this because that's $40 times 5, right? And then, you know what? This is just the beginning, right? Like, we have like several Marvel sets coming up. We have Final Fantasy. You think this is the only secret lair that's ever gonna happen? Like, no, right? There's gonna be like tons and tons coming down the pipe. So I would say caution. If you are like the biggest Marvel fan like Krim, yeah, go for it. But if you're just sitting here and being like, I don't care for any of this, but MTG Finance dictates I need to buy this, that's how bubbles start. That's how bubbles pop. And have faith that Wizards knows how to take all your money, right? And that this is a marketing ploy and there's plenty more. Buy them if you need the cards, buy them if you want them, but don't buy them just because you think they're going to sell out. I feel Wizards will print enough of these.
But why don't they, if they're so good at estimating the number of these to make, why didn't they make more Miku or more whatever? Like, every time they do one of these lair drops, or almost every time, they end up selling out super quick, right? So like, if they're really good at estimating this number, why not estimate better for all the past secret lair drops that sold out in 30 minutes?
There's the other 4 lair drops that sit there and waste away forever, right? So it's not like they're like totally off basis. Maybe they were off. They underestimated the power of the weebs, right? But
never underestimate.
What do you think about this? I don't know, right? Like, because like, remember, all you MTG Finance people that buy this, they got to start unloading this afterwards, right? And then what does that mean for the prices of these cards, right? They'll start going down, right? So do you think we'll turn around and sell each of our layers for $200? No problem. Like, I don't think so, right? They got to start trending down, right?
Let me ask you guys something, because you know this better than I do, because I'm not a Marvel person or an X-Men person. How much does being Marvel matter on this? Like,
a lot.
Like, are Marvel fans a
lot.
fandom that will spend lots of money on things that they don't really need because it has Marvel on them? Like, is that kind of how Marvel works? Like, how much of a
do you think Krim establishes loose spending habits from Magic the Gathering or from comic books?
I don't know.
I'm gonna say it's the rest of the fandom.
Who contributes to my loose spending?
Have you been to a Comic-Con where it's like $500 just to get there, and then you start buying? You're like, what is my budget? $2,000 to buy like 3 items while I'm there, right? Like,
but isn't there some argument then that because this is Marvel, and even let's say they reprint the Commanders, they're almost certainly not going to reprint a Bass Blessing or some of these like exclusive reprints with this unique art, Captain America's Aid. Like, is there some argument that you should be buying it just because it's Marvel, and that these cards are going to end up way more than $200 because Marvel fans are just so willing to part with their money for anything that has Marvel on it?
Part with their money. I like the way you put that. You're right. You're right. As someone who just had a weekend at Comic-Con.
So by the way, they released variant covers. You saw this, Krim, right? Or like the variant covers of comics featuring these cards there too, right? So if you like the art, this is not your only avenue to getting that, right? You may be collecting variant covers or something. But to Seth's point, if that demand is organic, then this is a snap buy. Like if every layer sold was to a Marvel fan, right? And then you got 10, then this is great for you. But if only 10 Marvel fans actually bought this and 999,000 Magic player MTG finance people hoarded these up, then you in for a bad time, right? So you got to figure out like where we actually are in this. But I will say, like, to the point about fans, like outside Magic players are the ones to come in and drop like $200 on a random card for fun. Right? Whereas a Magic player would be like, wow, it's going to be reprinted in triple masters or something. And this is not modern legal. They're like, oh, Wolverine, $150 for shiny. Okay, let's go. Right? And then they go. Right? So there's pros and cons everywhere here. But I'm just going to say, Wizards is not shutting down tomorrow. This is the start of their strategy. I expect tons and tons of these secret lair FOMO opportunities to come up. So pace yourself, right? Where's Spider-Man? I don't know, right? Where's Doctor Strange? On a counterspell, apparently, Krim. But there's tons of Marvel coming down the pipeline, right? Which is why you got to question like how popular these characters are. Is this the only Captain America? I think the Spider-Man set is coming next, so it's literally full of Spider-Man.
That was
right.
announced.
So you know, this is not the 101 ring, right? This is one of many secret layers coming. So that'd be my only caution. Don't be like, wow, Marvel people, let's take all their money. Krim, give me your money.
I mean, no, that is a good point though, because they announced they're doing like several tentpole sets, and that's going to be a bunch of secret lair drops and commander decks. So maybe the storm in the secret lair drop that we just saw, maybe that ends up being like the third best storm when all of this Marvel stuff is said and not. Like, you don't really know like what's going to happen with so much Marvel coming. So that is a fair point. I'm curious, to wrap this up, what are we doing with this personally? So I think Krim said he's buying all of them. I think I'm going to buy the one. I'm going to try to buy all of them.
How many of each one? Foil and
one foil, all of non and all foil.
Wait, Krim, don't you just get these? Wait, do you have to buy them?
Yes.
What?
Wait, you don't think I have to be in the queues with you hear every podcast, which conveniently, by the way, is always recorded
right
exactly when secret layers go up. I got a double queue, okay? I gotta get the secret layers.
I think I'm gonna buy the ones that I think are just worth it, which is the one with commander plate, the one with the Ozolith. Those two I think I buy for sure, just because I think the value is so good. And then the other three, I don't know, maybe I snag a copy of. Richard, you were most on the fence. What are you doing with these?
So for content purposes, one must buy all of them. But if I was not a content creator, right, I only want Commander's Plate, really. Commander's Plate and Flawless Maneuver. So I would just buy singles. I don't care for these commanders. I'm not buying with the plan of like, well, I'll buy this, open my TCG player account, sell Iron Man and Soul Ring or something, and try to like make my Commander's Plate free. That's too much work. I only want a handful of cards. Inventor's Fair is close, but flavor-wise is wrong. But I don't know. I'm trying to get the Miku Thespian stage. So I don't know.
Flavor-wise, how is it wrong?
No. I mean, if I play in a generic deck, I don't know if I like. Thing. If I'm playing an Iron Man deck, then yeah, right. But Commander's Plate, I'll just jam everywhere and I'll love it. So I just really want Commander's Plate. Ozolith, I don't even play. Berserk, like kind of meh. Ice Storm is funny. Do I need 4 Storm Lightning Bolts for Modern Jund? Probably not. So just Commander's Plate. So I'm going to buy Commander's Plate singles. And I'm going to save all my money for Final Fantasy. That is the plan. This is the plan. Also, and then also when the X-Men set comes out proper. X-Men proper, right? So give me some Sentinel cards, give me some Jubilation, give me some of that. Give me some of those classic. You know what the best part of the Deadpool Wolverine movie? I'm gonna spoil some of it for you.
Whoa, at some point, that's actually
they give you a montage of Wolverine in all his different variants. So you see him in different costumes, different actors, even maybe stuff like that. So I'm looking for like the 10 variants of Wolverine or something in the actual X-Men set. So I'm saving. I know Wizards isn't gonna hold on. Good stuff.
You're not gonna get the Berserk with the John Byrne suit coming out of the Sentinel.
Yeah, but no one plays Berserk. Like, it's not a
Who
common
cares?
card, right?
It's a collectible card game. How do you not want to collect this? This is so sick.
The card I want to collect is actually Storm. Storm, I would slab and just put on my mantle and just keep it there. Like that.
Ooh.
That is the card I want. I actually wish there was more for. Like, they should have just took away the text. I don't even need the text. Just give me the
Richard,
card,
you could put
put it there.
like Snapcaster Mage through Weapon X program if you get the bonding tank. Dude, think about how many cards can go through Weapon X. This is Bumbleflower is about to get grafted and adamantium, baby.
Next Snapcaster Mage.
All right. That's the new Marvel Secret Lair drops. Let us know in the comments which ones of these, if any, you're going to be picking up. We got to move on to some other topics. So, Richard, you just mentioned maybe slabbing up your Storm. We found out this week there's a new way to get your cards slabbed. there's a new way to go about that, Richard. If you want to get your cards slabbed, how can you do that now?
Go to the number one name in trading card games, GameStop. Apparently, so GameStop. So we know GameStop,
LGS.
sells trading cards, right? This has been a thing for a while. And they started selling slabbed cards, if you didn't know that. So graded cards. But now you can get your cards graded by GameStop, who has partnered with PSA. So it's not some weird GameStop grading, it's PSA. But here's the thing. So it's $15.99 a card to get graded with $5 shipping. Okay. Now, if you want to grade directly through PSA, it's $24.99 for a single card plus shipping, but $14.99 if you send in 20 cards or more, right? So you are essentially getting bulk pricing at singles rate when you do GameStop. But if you actually have a GameStop membership, you get free shipping and you get $5 credit every month that you can use towards the graded cards. So I was actually looking at the GameStop membership. It's $25. You get $65 of GameStop money that you need to use, which seems like a great deal,
Wait,
in
it's
its
a
own,
month
right?
or a year?
In a year, you get so you get $5 up front, and then you get $5 every
No. How much does it cost?
Oh, $25 a year.
A year. Okay.
Yeah, and you get $65 back, which you could use towards the graded thing. You get free shipping, and you get basically bulk pricing at singles rate for PSA. So if you are a casual PSA grader, this is like an amazing deal, right? And then you just go to GameStop, hand them the card. It's insured and everything. So if they somehow lose it, it goes into the void. They will pay you back. So this is actually very interesting. Now, we just talked about secret lairs and stuff. So Magic people don't grade cards. It's not a very common thing, right? Like, you will see graded like alpha, beta, like really old cards, but you typically don't see new cards or, semi-precious cards graded. But it's a huge thing in every other card game. Like Pokemon is where graded cards live at. Sports cards, things like that. But with the introduction of Universes Beyond Secret Lairs and these special treatments, I could see graded cards becoming a thing, right? You could go slab your Storm and throw it there for, $15.99, right? So this is an interesting shift. And then it's also an interesting shift for GameStop. Consoles don't come with disc drives anymore. Like, I don't even know what they sell at a GameStop, but it's all Funkos and t-shirts and things nowadays. So they're going into TCGs. So that's kind of interesting as well. So yeah, what do you guys think about GameStop grading?
GameStop selling me singles is kind of weird, right? Like, it's like, yo, GameStop my LGS. I'm gonna go pick up a pack of cards and then go buy a PSA 10 something, right? Like that to me is weird. Not that it's a bad thing. Like, I guess it's not a terrible thing. I just wish they offered other grading services personally, because I am not a fan of PSA. I think their slabs are weak. I think that they look visually, the label is an eyesore, by the way. On top of that,
it's called Classic, Krim. It's called Classic.
Dude, Classic. Yeah, okay. CGC is the one I go with for all my cards because they are, first off, they are grading comic books that are worth more than I will ever make in a life. And on top of that, why wouldn't I trust them with cards? And I've gone to them with every card, every comic. I haven't really tried BGS. I know that I've seen, it's weird. Card games are more popular in certain grading services as well. So you don't see as many Magic cards getting PSA'd. You do see a lot of Magic cards getting BGS and CGC'd. But Pokemon is the one that holds up PSA, I think. And that's kind of like this weird thing where I think why they're popular, they're just held up by Pokemon. And I personally do not like their slabs. Just like literally their slabs themselves are kind of flimsy. And I don't like that, but I do because I have cards graded by PSA. I have cards graded by all the companies. And so far, the one that I walked away with loving the most is CGC. So I'm kind of like, I like the idea that GameStop is doing this, but I wish GameStop offered BGS and CGC as well. All these grading services, by the way, they all do this. They're like, hey, you pay $20 a year, you get XYZ, right? You get to, you can now get your cards graded by us. The one thing that's interesting with this GameStop that you had mentioned, though, is the $5 back. We haven't seen that yet. So that is very interesting, but not enough for me to care about PSA slabs. Also, you'll hear all these stories back and forth about who has the more strict grading process. And more often than not, it's like, oh, you go get a BGS or a CGC 8, and you'll get a PSA 10, right? Like it which personally, I think it's anecdotal and I think a very small sample size, but I have done that. I submitted what is a terribly beat up Sabrina's Gengar, first edition. I know because I've had it since I was a kid. And I'm like, yo, this is like a 5 at best. And he came back like an 8. I'm like, I mean, hell yeah. But also, but I know this isn't an 8.
Okay, there's the question whether grading is a complete scam or not, right?
I mean,
like,
okay,
like due to this part of it, right? But if you ignore that for a second,
so if we ignore that,
I mean,
my question is just like, is this worth it with Magic cards? Because I know, as you mentioned, other card games that are very big into grading in other card games and in sports cards. Magic, it just doesn't matter. I know there's like a $200 cap on this or something, so it's not like you can really send in an Alpha Black Lotus without paying like an extra something that wasn't exactly clear if your card's more than $200. So my question is, if you have a Magic card that's worth under $200, is there even any point to getting it graded? That's what I don't really understand. Why would I send in a Ragavan to get graded when I could put it in a deck? Like what Magic card? What card is that, Crim? I can't actually tell. Is that Magic?
This is Mr. Mime sitting on an invisible chair. They're miming and pretending to play chess together from the 151 set of Pokemon. This card is $6.
So what made you decide to
okay.
Why did you spend $15 to grade a $6 card of Mr. Mime?
Because there is one thing, and I could see why you would think that way, because Magic for the longest time kind of struggled with the casual appeal, right? Like, yes, I'm here to play the game. But the one thing that's cool about like Pokemon, and the reason why it's held up like PSA, is because Pokemon is really focused on the casual collecting side of things, right? So it's for people who want to display their cards or who want to just show off their favorite Pokemon. Now, Magic players don't really think that way. Magic players are more like, oh, this card is playable. It's modern playable. I love it. That's it. Why would I have it graded? I've got Magic cards graded because I also have that casual collector in me, right? So I've got like Grinning Demon graded. That is $2. It costs more to grade the card and ship the card than it was to buy the card. So
what do you do with the Grinning Demon now? Like, is it on a shelf, like displayed somewhere?
Yeah.
Or is it just like stuffed in a closet? Okay, so you do it to display it, basically, is the upside of it. I love as a collector and just a collector of things, you see comics, all that stuff. It's just so cool to preserve, keep your cards and comics pristine, and like if I want to play it, I'll have extra copies or something. But I just like displaying them. It's cool. See, that's different than I thought.
Here's the real practical way.
Oh, go ahead.
Right?
Yeah.
So say you have a $100 card. Like you have Fracture Foiled, Enduring Innocence, or whatever, but it's actually Black Panther. Okay, so it's actually like $200. Now, you can buy a card that someone declares as near mint and cross your fingers and hope for the best, right? And then when you open it, you're like, well, this corner has a a nick on it. The back has like a thumbprint on it. It's off center. Like, why did I pay $150 for this? This is not near mint, right? So when you're in cards of that territory, it makes sense to pay the $10 or the $15 to ensure that someone has looked at it and said, all the corners are fine. This card is not terribly off-centered, right? There is no smudge here or whatever, like all of these things that you would not care about for a 50-cent card or even a $20 card matters, because you're spending like $200. You want to know you got the good one, right? Like, you don't want the scuffed one, right? So it makes actual sense financially when you're talking about expensive cards, right? Because when you buy a Black Lotus, you're not going to take someone's oh, it's near
At
mint.
home.
It's lightly played. You're like, what the hell does that mean? I gotta take a look at it. I gotta give me a video, right? Or have a professional look at it. I need to know its exact condition, because that condition changes the price by a lot, right? If you're talking about a $3,000 card, it could be $2,000, it could be $2,500, right? The variance is a lot. But for bulk cards, like, buy 5 Grinning Demons, choose the best looking one, right? Like it does, like the card price is so low, you can do that. So that's why we do that.
Have we seen Magic cards be worth more because they're graded? I know like Power 9 Alpha stuff is like that, but like if I grade a Ragavan, or I don't know, the Storm, whatever card we were just talking about, like, should I expect to get like a premium that I'm going to sell this for twice as much because it says 10 on it? Or because I always assumed that grading was a financial thing, basically, where you're like, I can prove my card is like higher quality so I can get more when I sell the card. Does that work with Magic though?
Yeah.
Modern Magic, not like Alpha Beta Power 9 Magic.
Of course. I mean, again, this is something that Magic itself isn't as popular in. Like, you don't see it with Magic yet, but it's all the difference in Pokemon. Like, an 8 and a 7 are absurd. Also, by the way, the CGC grading scale allows you to get 0.5s, because there are 0.5s, whereas PSA is always just 7, 8, 10, whatever, right? But, like, example, look at the Liliana, the Fall Japan promo, right? The Japanese one with the Liliana of the Veil. That you can find for maybe like 180 or so. But then you look on GameStop.com, my favorite LGS, and you can see that it's on sale there for $265.99, right? I like the TCG player they have a few people that sell slab copies of cards, but it's mostly always raw copies that you're looking at. And then when it comes to slab market, you got to go then on to like maybe more of like an auction site like eBay and stuff like that. That's where you'll see like where these are getting moved around. So I don't know. I mean,
interesting.
You see these cards do get a markup though. They do get a markup.
Okay.
So the print quality matters. So for a game like One Piece, people slap things for like no reason, because like every card that gets printed in that game is like a 10, right? But like if you have a game like Magic the Gathering, who can't get their printing together, finding a good printing may actually be a challenge, right? This is why old cards are worth a lot slab, right? Like finding an actual 10 Black Lotus is like nearly impossible, because even pack fresh ones aren't a 10, right? Like most of them are off by some way. So the worse your printing process, the more valuable the grading is, right? Because you've sifted through all of the ones that are off center or bad coloring or whatever, right? So it depends on the card game as well, right? And obviously just old cards are just older. They have worse QA, and then they have to exist through time for a long time, right? So that's why they get a bigger premium. But I could totally see Secret Lairs being slabbed. Like this Marvel one, I could see people slabbing the commanders, right? Like that could happen.
Well, as we also become like Magic is now getting a bigger casual player base, right? And that's big. As the culture shifts to that, I do think slab cards will be more popular.
I just always, and we got to move on to a couple other topics, but I just always think of that YouTube short that I think we shared in our group chat, where it was like different card game players, different TCGs, and you had like the Yu-Gi-Oh players buying like his slab cards, the Pokemon buying these high-end cards, and the Magic dude walks in and he's like looking for heavy play dual lands or whatever. Perfect. Yeah, perfect. Those are the ones I want. Give me the heavy play. Anyway, let's move on. We got some Commander panel news, and I'm curious what you guys think about this, if this is actually a big deal or not. So, Gavin Duggan, who was on the Commander RC, was apparently talking to Wizards about being part of the new Commander panel that they're creating now that they're taking over the format. Gavin tweeted that there's a clause in their contracts that includes a surviving non-disparagement clause. So surviving basically means forever, even after the contract ends, which means it limits what I can say about Wizards even after the contract ends. Concern about saying stuff like, I think Wizards is doing a bad job managing Commander could reasonably be considered disparaging the company. Should I sign this type of thing? What do you think of this clause? So you have two different groups, I think, on this, where one group is like, this is just boilerplate, shouldn't even pay any attention to it, it doesn't matter. And then there's also a group that's like, this is pretty concerning, that you'd have to sign away for the rest of your life the right to say Wizards is doing a bad job managing Commander to help Wizards manage Commander. What do you think on this? Is this a concern or no?
This is like, I feel like this is obviously not great, because I think this happened like it's one of those weird clauses where I feel like it comes back to bite you in the weirdest ways. And I think the one that we talked about, or that y'all talked about in the Discord, is one of the ones that I think is more infamous in recent history or recent memory, is the Disney one.
Oh,
The Disney, that was one of the funniest things that I cannot believe they tried to pull on somebody, because you had like a Disney Plus service account. You now agree that like any liabilities we have at any point along the way, you are null. You do not work. And I am a little bit worried about that, but I feel, is that not just in like every company's contract too, though?
so do you think it's just
terrible
boilerplate,
that
Richard?
it's on there?
I mean, it's pretty much boilerplate. So the essence. So if you think about it for a second, the essence of it is you're gonna come work with us. You're gonna have access to all of our inside information. We do not want you after the fact to air out all the dirty laundry of internal discussions or internal documents or whatever, right? Like that's the essence of it, right? Now, the question is it legal? Depends, right? Like you can put whatever you want in a contract, doesn't mean you can sue and enforce it, right? So like people put all kinds of clauses. So the question is A, if you ask Wizards to remove it, would they? Right? B, if you break it, let's define break. There's a scale of break, right? You could say Commander sucks versus, very specific things, right? Will Wizards actually come after and sue you? Right? So like there's a big range of this. This is not uncommon, right? And also there could be a time cap on this. It doesn't have to be forever. So I don't personally view it as a big issue. Like no company really wants you to go and like air out internal discussions. Now, does this mean if you're in a company meeting, someone brings up a bad idea and you're like, no, and they fire you on the spot? Like that's bad. Like that's like bad for the company in terms of like how you want them to operate, right? But I don't think that's not what this is indicating, right? This is, you can have internal discussions, you can have disagreements, you can have your feedback. What we don't want you to do is go and air all the dirty laundry on your social media, right? Because no one wants that, right? Like, but there are people that will do that, right? And I think this is the way the company tries to protect itself, whether it's legal or not, or enforceable or not, or whether they'll actually do it or not. This is, I think, the intent of it, right?
I would never sign that contract. Not a million. Like, so here's the thing. Like, I don't think it's necessarily enforceable just from trying to research. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know. And it probably depends on your state and all this stuff. The problem with stuff like this in contracts, though, is there's a huge power imbalance. So even if the clause isn't enforceable, how could Gavin or me or some random YouTuber actually fight against Hasbro Legal in a, you know what I'm saying? Like, when it comes down to going to court, Wizards is going to win because they're a $1 billion company with a huge staff of lawyers that can carry on the lawsuit forever. When I got no money, how can I actually compete with that? So a lot of times, even if it's not enforceable, you can't actually take it to court to like figure out if it is enforceable because it's just not viable financially. So I think that's a concern, whether it's enforceable or not. My other concern just for Magic is I feel like this weakens the new Commander panel, because I feel like rather than we get all the best people that we want to help us guide Commander. It's going to be, we have all the best people that are willing to sign away their right for the rest of their lives to say anything critical of Wizards at the risk of like maybe having this lawsuit that may or may not actually work. How do I know what Wizards would get mad about? We've seen them send Pinkertons after people for getting early boxes, but then other things they don't care about at all. Like, how would you feel comfortable signing that? So I feel like it makes or has potential to make the new Commander panel worse than it would have been without that clause. Like, is there any concern that people would just be like, I'm not, like I would, if they asked me to do it, I would just say no, because I don't want to sign that, and then I wouldn't be on the Commander panel. Like, are we going to have people that would be really good on the Commander panel that aren't on the Commander panel because they don't want to sign this contract?
Yeah, get the next one.
Doesn't matter.
I mean, I don't know. Like, we think this is some kind of democracy, right? You're like, no, Wizards runs the format. You're trusting them to do the right thing. And if they don't do the right thing, then we're out of luck, really, essentially, right? Like, we're trying to, like, I don't know, try to, like, control Wizards with feedback or something. So I don't know. I will say that it's like, have you ever read the terms of conditions of literally anything? You would not want to sign anything, right? You would never want to accept a cookie in your life. You will never want to accept a EULA. But we do, and then we hope for the best. In this case, you don't work for Wizards if you feel like let me put it this: why would you work for Wizards and then expect the right to say bad things about the company app? Like why? Like why do I want you in my company if you feel the need to exercise this freedom, right? Like, how about we keep our internals internal? Right? Like, if it's illegal, you can whistle blow all you want, but if it's like perfectly legal, why are you like leaking everything out? Right? So it's a weird situation, which is why content creators really shouldn't work with Wizards, right? Because content creators, make their money creating content, right? And then, this becomes a big conflict, right? But if you're just Joe Schmo, right? Like, why do and you want to work and design the game, like, why do you feel the need to like air either positive or negatives about working about Wizards, right? Like, it's weird, right? So in a normal case, it doesn't matter, which is why it's boilerplate. But once you have content creators or public figures working with the company, there's a conflict now, right? And not necessarily like a malicious conflict, right? But because, you want to speak your mind, say whatever, right? But then the company is like, well, why are you saying these things, right? And we talked about the Typhlosion leak, right? This is where like internal things go out in a weird way, and then now you're a giant meme, right? Like, you kind of want to avoid that, right? So,
man, that Pokemon leak was brutal.
If Wizards is listening to this, I will just say, if they're listening to this by some chance, if you want to have people sign an NDA, that's fine. If you want them to have a non-disparagement clause while they're working for you, also perfectly fine. The part that sits wrong with me is the surviving, like, even after our contract ends, our relationship is over with, for the rest of your life, you cannot say anything critical of Wizards. That's the part that seems over the edge to me. Like, I think if you're working with Wizards, completely fair to be like, hey, you can't be trashing us while you're working here. But to be like, hey, Gavin, 40 years from now, when you're 80 years old and on your deathbed, if you say, screw you, WotC, we're coming after you, I'm like, that can't actually, is that really what this contract is about? So yeah, that would be my concern.
This is why MTG Goldfish doesn't officially partner with Wizards, right? Because we don't want to be bound by such things. Although there's no malice, right? It's like standard practice. And I'm sure when we send out the Goldfish contract to people that the lawyers, draft up, it has the same crap in it, right? Because it's like kind of boilerplate, right? But, I think the real difference is if you try to start fighting it, right? Like, you're like, I don't want this clause. Are you willing to forego the clause? And if Wizards is like, that's fine, we can remove it, right? They're like, no, we have to keep it, right? Then you start figuring out like how important it really is, right?
Yeah.
Like, because there's a lot of boilerplate, and then it's also flexible, right? Also, we didn't get the language of this, right? We're just getting
this is a tweet.
Legalese is important for a reason. It means something very specific. So when we distill it to normal people talk, like, all the essence is lost. But I wouldn't think this side is the Wizards trying to ruin Commander. I'm like, I don't know, company doing company things, right? And maybe you don't like it, right? And maybe that's valid as well, right? But like, this is not like, wow, Wizards underhandedly trying to destroy Commander, right? Like, no, this is just
I mean, like
contracts.
It's probably
like the Goldfish contract.
Scary.
Like, the Goldfish contract I signed has that I cannot kill Richard first ever in a game. or else.
Wait, and we talked about this.
We all
Trev,
had to
that
sign that. Yeah,
important.
But
I circled
I
it
think
for you.
I think
I
you just
circled it
violated
for
your
you.
contract by saying that, Krim. You're not supposed to say say
Wait,
that.
there was a
Oh,
non,
whoops.
there was a
Oh,
private non-disparaging clause. Chris. Did you read that one too?
Did you just disparage Wizard Richard?
The Goldfish contract has a list of things you cannot do in Commander, dude.
You have to let my spells
We're airing out
resolve.
the Goldfish laundry right now.
You have to let my spells resolve, Krim. What do we talk about? Should we fishmail, Seth?
It's time. Let's do a fish mail on the way out the door today.
All right. If you have questions, hit us up at MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail and get your questions on air. 11 Vicious got my first hat trick and won 3 modern events in a row at my LGS. Racked enough store credit to buy a video game. Got Dragon Ball Z Sparking Zero, and it's pretty fun. Are any of you playing any new video games recently?
Oh God, I made a huge mistake over the weekend. I started playing Card Shop Simulator. My God, is this game?
We were saving that for
addictive.
content.
It's so addictive.
It's so funny.
They figured out that they can make a video game that is mostly about you cracking packs, and they got me hooked hardcore. I just like hire my employee to run the store, and I just crack boosties. Oh, it's the best. So yes, I may have gotten a little addicted to Card Shop Sim over the last couple days.
Oh. I for me, I played this game that was really fun. I think that we should all play as well. It's called Lairs Bar. I played it with like CGB, Voxy, and Rarin. And it is a game that is. Did you ever play BS, the card game? It's
Yep.
like that combined with Russian roulette. It's on Steam. It's like $6. And
how many players? 4-player?
4. And
we
it
should do that.
It has Liar's Dice as well. But the Liar's Bar game, the one where you play BS, the card game, is so fun. But you can only call the person to your right if they actually are playing the suites or the suits that are being asked of, right? So example, if it asks for queens, do you think the person to the right of you put down actually queens, or are they other cards? Because the goal is to empty your hand. And I was calling Voxy pretty hardcore and getting it, but she was getting lucky and surviving because, like in Russian roulette, there's 6 empty barrels every time that you get called out, or you call someone out incorrectly. You load a bullet into the barrel. And so it is a violent game and it's very tense, but like, oh my God, it is so fun to play on Steam. And CGB just sniped me. He called me every round. He knew that man read me like a book.
That sounds super fun. I'd try that.
I tried to play a game this weekend, actually. So I came out of my cave and realized that the Final Fantasy Remake Part 2 had come out months ago, by the way. And I'm like, all
For
right,
like 2 years.
you know, I got my trusty PS4. Let's go. I'm like, wait, it's not available for PS4. It's only available on PS5. I do not own a PS5, right? But I'm like, wait, I played part 1 on PS4. What the heck? So I had to research this for a second. Apparently, the game no longer runs, even though I played part 1 on PS4. I need a PS5. So I was going to buy a PS5, but then I found out they're releasing a Pro version soon. I was like, wait.
So you gotta wait for the Pro.
Wait, not only is PS5 like 4 years old, there's a new one coming out at like 50% increased price. Now, and then I had to do some research. And now I'm lost. I don't know. And it doesn't even come with a disk drive. I went to my GameStop and cried a little bit. So I don't know what to do. I need to get
your slab.
Cards, yeah.
Yeah. Did you see this, Richard? There's a PS5 Slim that is a 30th anniversary of the PS1. So it looks
I
like
saw that
the
one.
PS1.
But is it a
Whoa, that
Pro?
thing is so expensive.
Is it a Pro? Do I need a Pro?
I don't even think so. That's the funny part.
The Pro is like 50% stronger or faster or something. I don't know. I was just reading a bunch of Sony marketing, but I feel like I need to now spend $800 on a PlayStation 5 to play my Final Fantasy game. And you know what? I'll probably do it You know, like I'd probably spend $800 just to play Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, and that's like the only game I'm playing, and that's it. I'm just gonna call it a day. So if you're gonna ask, how much your Final Fantasy Secret Lair is gonna resell for, that's probably your answer right there. That's what's happening.
You know you're gonna do it because of Final Fantasy that's coming up, and you're not gonna be able to resist it when we're spoiler season. And it's gonna get you in the Final Fantasy mood. It's gonna get you.
Like not only that, apparently it's like game of the year or something, right? Like so it's really good too. So yeah, I've got to get a PS5. Or Krim, do you have a PS5 Pro? I don't know what's going on.
I don't have a Pro. I have a normal PS5. I do.
Are you getting a Pro?
Yeah. You have 2 PS5s?
Well, okay, so I learned that you can't have a business. Well, you have to have a separate one for work, right? And then,
you got the work PS5
and I have a normal PS5. Yeah. I'm punching in.
I got it. So I can be like, honey, I'm working. I'm working.
Yeah.
I'm on the work PS5. Don't you see what's going on? I got to work overtime. Oh my God. Weekend hours. This is terrible. Can you bring me some Red Bull?
On that note, I think that brings us to the end of our podcast for today. Richard, how do people send in future fish mails?
All right, hit us up at MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail, and we'll get to your questions on air.
And I believe that brings us to the end of episode 507 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. Richard Cribb, thanks for hanging out. Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks to Card Conduit for supporting the show. And we will be back next week to talk about MagicCon Vegas. Oh yeah, we didn't even mention this. We're all going to be out in Vegas for the MagicCon this weekend. If you are in Vegas, stop, say hello, get something signed, maybe jam a game. So yeah, we'll talk about our Vegas experience and whatever else goes on in the world of Magic. So until then, have an amazing week, everyone. And this is the crew signing out.